Andrei thought he had all of Brooklyn in the palm of his hand. The money was flowing, the fear was real, and his name carried weight from Coney Island to Sheepshead Bay. But in the bloody, chaotic 90s, you couldn't trust a soul. Not your allies, not your friends. Hell, sometimes not even your own reflection in the mirror. The brutal attempt on his life, that hailstorm of bullets that turned his Cadillac into Swiss cheese, was the final message. It wasn't just a warning, it was a declaration. War with the Lombardi family was no longer a possibility. It was a fucking inevitability. He didn't just call for a meeting, he gathered a crew. It was a brotherhood forged in the old country and hardened on these new, ruthless streets. Old friends from the motherland, guys who knew the meaning of loyalty, and a few local Brooklyn boys who had earned their respect with their fists and their nerve. In a dusty garage, surrounded by the smell of oil and cigarette smoke, he laid it out for them. "They look at us," he said, his voice low and steady as he looked at the old scars on his knuckles. "And they see scared Russians. They see peasants. They don't see that we are wolves. Tonight, we show them who really runs this goddamn town." His plan wasn't about a knockout blow, not yet. It was about sending a message. A series of precise, small hits. A protected Lombardi poker game gets raided. Cash and cards flying. A delivery truck for their stolen goods gets hijacked and burned. It was a signal, a ghost in their machine, telling them the Russians weren't just visiting. They were here to stay. The Italians were getting nervous. You could feel it in the air, but they still held their ground, arrogantly writing it off as small-time bullshit. It was Katya who tried to pull him back from the edge. He found her crying in the kitchen of her tiny apartment. "Andrei, please," she begged, her voice trembling. "You see where this is going, don't you? I see it in your eyes. This isn't you." He turned away, jaw clenched so tight it ached. "You don't understand, Katya," he hissed, the words tasting like metal. "If I show 1 second of weakness, if I don't hit back twice as hard, they won't just kill me. They'll wipe out every last one of us. There is no other way." But the worst blow didn't come from the Italians. It came from within. At the height of the tension, a whisper found its way to him. His childhood best friend, Pasha, the guy he'd shared everything with since they were kids, stealing apples in Leningrad, was tied up with the Lombardis. He'd been the leak. He'd sold the plans. Confronted in a deserted alley, Pasha couldn't even meet his eyes. "You sold me out, Pasha? After everything?" Andrei's voice wasn't angry. It was hollow. Dead. Pasha just shrugged, defeated. I thought I was making the right call. Surviving." In that moment, Andrei's world shrunk. The war wasn't just against the Italians anymore. It was against the ghosts of his own past. It all exploded that same night. The Lombardis hit the warehouse where Andrei stashed his money and his guns. It wasn't a hit. It was a full-scale assault. The sound of shattering glass and roaring gunfire filled the industrial night. Andrei and his crew were outgunned, but not outsmarted. They returned fire from behind crates, using every trick they'd learned, surviving the concrete jungle of Brooklyn. In the chaotic crossfire, a stray bullet found Pasha, knocking him to the grimy concrete floor. Andrei saw him fall. There was no triumph, only a cold, sick feeling in his gut. He barely made it out himself, diving through a broken window and disappearing into a maze of dark, piss-smelling alleys, the echoes of the shootout ringing in his ears. Hours later, alone, he sat on the tar paper roof of an old sewing factory, the highest point he could find. The city sprawled before him, a kingdom of broken dreams and endless war. A cold, heavy pistol sat in his lap. His face was smeared with a mix of someone else's blood and the ash from the burning warehouse. The neon lights of a city that promised everything and gave nothing reflected in his eyes. He spoke to the night, his voice a raw, quiet scrape. In the 90s, it wasn't the strong who survived. Everyone was strong. It was the patient ones, the cunning ones, the ones who knew how to wait and how to make revenge taste sweeter than any victory. He watched the endless lights of New York City, and a cold certainty settled over him. The first battle was over. The war for his soul, for his streets, for his very life. It was only just beginning, and this time, he would play by his own rules. No mercy, no weakness, no friends,